Let me tell you something that may sound incredibly simple, but the truth is it has the power to change your health in ways most people overlook. Every single day, your body carries you through life. It breathes for you, pumps blood for you, it moves, digests, repairs, and defends you without ever asking for much. But with age, especially after 60, the smallest neglects can become the biggest burdens. That's why today I want to talk to you like a doctor who truly cares. Not someone reading from a chart, but someone who has seen the difference between a life that slowly fades and one that continues with grace and dignity. And believe it or not, it begins with something as humble as daily hygiene. Not the whole body, no. I'm talking about 5 specific body parts that you must wash every single day. Doing so can help you avoid infections, preserve your immunity, and even live longer. It sounds like a small effort, but the results, they can be life-changing. Let's begin with the first, your hands. Now you might say, of course I wash my hands, but I've worked with hundreds of elderly patients. And let me tell you this with honesty. Most people stop washing their hands properly after a certain age. Sometimes the joints hurt, sometimes memory fades. But whatever the reason, hand hygiene becomes inconsistent. The hands are the front lines. They touch doorknobs, mobile phones, groceries, toilets. Then they touch your face, your food, your eyes, your lips. And that's how viruses and bacteria travel into the body. A study published by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed that hand washing reduces respiratory illnesses by 20% and diarrheal diseases by up to 40%. For seniors, those numbers mean something far greater, because a single respiratory infection after 70 can lead to pneumonia. And pneumonia, sadly, remains one of the top 10 causes of death in older adults. All from something that could be avoided by washing hands thoroughly with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds. Every day, multiple times a day. Now let's talk about the second. Your feet. Yes, those feet that carry you your entire life. You might not think about them often, but I want you to know this. Feet are one of the most commonly neglected areas in elderly hygiene, and they are also one of the most vulnerable, because circulation to the lower limbs decreases with age. That means wounds heal slower, fungus and bacteria grow faster, and infections like athlete's foot or nail fungus can become chronic. But it goes deeper than that. In diabetics, which many seniors are, foot infections can become limb-threatening. One study from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that foot complications led to hospitalizations in nearly 1 in 4 elderly patients with diabetes. And in many of those cases, it began with simple neglect. That's why I urge you, wash your feet every day, use warm water, gently scrub between the toes, dry thoroughly, apply moisturizer if needed, but never between the toes because moisture trapped there invites fungus. Keep the toenails trimmed. And please, check your feet for any cuts, blisters, or color changes. Your feet deserve your daily attention, not just to walk better, but to stay healthy from the ground up. The third place is one people don't always talk about, the armpits. You see, as we age, our sweat glands may become less active, but not completely inactive. The armpits remain warm, moist areas where bacteria thrive. And when we don't wash them regularly, the bacteria multiply. They can lead to foul body odor, irritation, even bacterial or fungal infections. Now, odor is one issue, but infections under the arms, especially in the folds of the skin, can become painful and persistent. One study from dermatologic clinics highlighted that seniors with reduced hygiene in skin folds, such as the armpits, had a significantly higher rate of recurrent intertrigo and skin breakdown. It can be itchy, it can become raw, and in those with compromised immune systems, even something so simple can spiral into a deeper problem. Daily washing of the armpits using gentle soap, followed by thorough drying, keeps the bacterial levels in check. And let me tell you this, it's not about looking clean. It's about keeping your immune system from fighting unnecessary battles. Because every small infection you avoid is one less stress on your body's already busy immune defenses. The fourth is your private parts. I know it may feel uncomfortable to talk about, but as a doctor, I've seen the painful consequences of avoidance. The genital area, in both men and women, is delicate, and it is susceptible to bacterial buildup, yeast infections, and even chronic skin irritation if not cleaned properly. For women, especially postmenopausal, the changes in vaginal flora make them more susceptible to infections. For men, improper hygiene under the foreskin or around the scrotum can lead to bacterial infections or even urinary tract complications. A study published in the International Journal of Infectious Diseases noted that urinary tract infections in the elderly are often linked to improper perineal hygiene. These infections don't just cause discomfort. In older adults, UTIs can lead to confusion, falls, and in severe cases, sepsis. That's why you must wash your genitals gently but thoroughly every day. Use warm water, avoid harsh soaps, and never ignore signs like itching, discharge, or odor. You're not doing this for vanity. You're doing this to protect your dignity, your health, and your ability to stay independent. Now, finally, the fifth place. Behind your ears. This may surprise you, but I want you to understand why. The area behind the ears is often overlooked in daily hygiene. It's warm, it accumulates oil and sweat, and over time, that leads to the growth of bacteria. It can cause odor, it can cause blackheads. In some cases, especially when immunity is lowered, it can even lead to skin infections. But here's the part most people don't know. Dirty areas like behind the ears or the back of the neck signal something more than just physical neglect. In older adults, when I see those areas unclean, I worry, because it often tells me that the person may be slipping mentally, emotionally, or physically. That's why I want you to pay attention to this area. Wash behind your ears every day, gently but consistently. Use your fingers to check for any buildup, because when you take care of the small things, you prevent the big things from going wrong. You see, my dear friend, hygiene isn't just about staying clean. It's about giving your body the respect it deserves. It's about protecting your immune system, preserving your dignity, and preventing those slow, creeping problems that turn into crises down the road. I've been in hospitals. I've seen people come in with infections that started with something as small as an ignored foot blister or an unwashed private area. And I've also seen people well into their 80s, strong and sharp, who maintain these simple practices every single day. You may not be able to control everything about aging, but you can control how you treat your body. And by washing these 5 areas daily, your hands, your feet, your armpits, your private parts, and behind your ears, you give yourself a real fighting chance at longer life, fewer infections, and more energy. Science backs this up. Hygiene is deeply connected to health outcomes. A study in The Lancet highlighted that proper personal hygiene in elderly care settings reduced infection rates by over 30%. Another review in Clinical Interventions in Aging stated that personal hygiene is a cornerstone of healthy aging, especially in reducing skin disorders, urinary tract infections, and even depression. Yes, depression. Because when you care for your body, you send a message to your mind that you still matter, that you are still alive and worth looking after. So I ask you this, when you stand in front of the sink, when you step into the shower, don't rush, don't just go through the motions. Take a few moments to honor the body that has carried you this far. Wash those 5 areas daily, not because someone told you to, but because you know the truth now, that the smallest habits often carry the deepest power. You deserve health, you deserve vitality, and it begins with the simple act of washing what matters most. Let this be your promise to yourself, not for the sake of routine, but for the sake of a longer, stronger, more dignified life. One that you can live with fewer doctor visits, more freedom, and a quiet confidence that you're doing right by the body that's still doing its very best for you. And I'll tell you this, it's never too late to begin. Start today, because the cleaner you keep these parts, the cleaner your path forward becomes, not just in body, but in mind and in soul. How can poor hygiene lead to serious health problems in seniors? Let me tell you something that many overlook, but it can quietly chip away at your health like water wearing down stone. As a doctor who has spent decades caring for older adults, I can't stress this enough. Poor hygiene in your later years is not just a matter of looking neat. It can mean the difference between independence and hospital visits, between comfort and suffering, between life and death. You see, as we age, the body becomes more fragile. The immune system, which once handled daily assaults like a silent warrior, begins to slow down. It becomes less efficient in fighting off infections and less resilient to recovery. That means that what may seem like a small hygiene lapse can snowball into a major health crisis. When you neglect your hygiene, even just a little, the first thing that suffers is the skin. The skin is not just a covering, it's your body's first line of defense. Without regular cleaning, especially in warm, moist areas like under the breasts, the groin, underarms, or between the toes, bacteria and fungi begin to grow rapidly, and they're not harmless passengers. According to a study published in the Journal of Clinical Microbiology, seniors who do not bathe or clean skin folds regularly are at higher risk of developing skin infections, such as intertrigo, fungal rashes, and even cellulitis. Cellulitis is not a small rash. It is a deep bacterial infection of the skin that can spread quickly to the blood, and in seniors, it can lead to sepsis. That's a life-threatening condition. It happens more often than people think. Then there's oral hygiene. Many older adults think, I don't eat as much sugar anymore, or I don't need to worry because I have dentures now. But this belief is misleading and harmful. If the mouth is not cleaned properly every single day, harmful bacteria begin to thrive. These bacteria don't just stay in the mouth, they travel. And when they do, they contribute to a serious condition called aspiration pneumonia. It's one of the leading causes of death in the elderly. The National Institute of Health found that seniors with poor oral hygiene were nearly 3 times more likely to develop aspiration pneumonia, particularly those who are bedridden or have trouble swallowing. When food, saliva, or bacteria enter the lungs instead of the stomach, it can trigger an infection that a weakened body cannot fight. That's not just a statistic. That's a painful reality I've seen too many times in hospital rooms. Let's talk about the genitals and urinary hygiene. With age, bladder control weakens. Many seniors experience incontinence or dribbling. It's common. But when hygiene isn't maintained, the risks multiply. Urinary tract infections, or UTIs, become more frequent. But here's what's even more concerning. UTIs in older adults often don't present the way they do in younger people. You might not feel the burning or urgency. Instead, you may feel confused. You may become drowsy or even hallucinate. Many families think their loved one is suddenly developing dementia, but often it's a UTI, untreated and allowed to progress. According to a study in the British Medical Journal, UTIs are a leading cause of hospitalizations among seniors and frequently lead to delirium. And when the infection spreads to the kidneys or bloodstream, it can be fatal. Hair and scalp hygiene are just as essential. When the scalp isn't cleaned regularly, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria, lice, or fungal infections. You may not think this is a big deal, but poor scalp hygiene has been linked to skin breakdown, scalp sores, and even systemic infections in the frail elderly. I once treated a patient who had not washed her hair for weeks because she had arthritis and couldn't lift her arms. What started as an itchy scalp became a deep abscess that required surgical draining, all because the help she needed never came. Clean hair is not vanity, it's health. Let's not forget about nail hygiene. Yes, your nails. Dirt and bacteria get trapped underneath them. If they are not trimmed and cleaned regularly, they can scratch your skin or harbor fungal infections. Long toenails can cause foot injuries or make walking difficult, increasing your risk of falls. A study from the Journal of Gerontology found that over 40% of falls in nursing homes were linked to foot and nail problems. One misstep, one fall, and a senior can end up with a broken hip. And a broken hip, in an older adult, often begins a chain of events that leads to permanent disability or even death. I have seen vibrant, independent patients decline rapidly after a single fall. People often think hygiene is about looking good for others, but in truth, it's about protecting the body's critical systems. When you don't wash your hands regularly, you touch your face, your eyes, your food, and with that, you invite viruses and bacteria inside. The Centers for Disease Control has confirmed that proper hand hygiene alone can prevent over 50% of common infections in seniors, including the flu, norovirus, and gastrointestinal illnesses. These illnesses may be mild in a young person, but in an elderly body they can wreak havoc: dehydration, hospitalization, organ failure. These are not exaggerations. They are the daily realities of poor hygiene. I know that maintaining hygiene becomes more difficult with age. Arthritis makes it hard to grip a toothbrush. Balance issues make it scary to take a shower. Vision loss means you may miss spots when you wash. I get it. But I also know this. There is always a way to make it work. Ask for help, install safety rails, use bathing chairs, switch to electric toothbrushes, hire caregivers if needed. This is not a matter of luxury. It is a matter of survival, of dignity, of living the last chapters of your life in comfort, not in and out of hospitals. The truth is, good hygiene is not about vanity. It is about respect. Respect for your body, respect for your life. It is one of the simplest things you can do every day to prevent suffering, and yet it is one of the first things people begin to neglect as they age. I have seen it. I have lived it through the eyes of my patients, and I beg you not to let it happen to you. So if no one has told you lately, let me be the one to say it. Your health still matters. Your hygiene still matters. Your life still matters. Every day you wash your body, you are not just removing dirt. You are protecting yourself from infections. You are defending your independence. You are honoring the precious body that has carried you this far. Keep doing it. Keep caring. Keep living.